Hello. All right. I would like to cover Logseq DB. Uh, this is something that I'm hoping will be useful to new users or existing users questioning what's happening with Logseq and what may be happening with Logseq DB. So this recording will be unfiltered and it will be unedited. So the purpose of it is somewhat uh, clear in my mind where I want to show what we can get out of Logseq DB. You'll see me fumble and make some mistakes along the way, and so we can see what the tool can do, what it can't do. But the good news is the Logseq DB team, the developers have spent a tremendous amount of time improving the application. So the foundation, I believe, is solid at this point, and there may be there are still things that can be improved, but at this point, this is a decent version. So, and I'm making this comment based on testing I personally have been doing for some time. Um, the first time I played with Logseq DB was way before the alpha, so that was last year around I think maybe May or June timeframe. So it was very rough at that time, but they've come. The application has come a long way, and yeah. So um, we'll cover from a high level perspective. I'll cover. I'll do a tour so we get a feel for what the UI looks like, that new interface, because at the back end they've changed the UI framework and incrementally making some of those changes as we progress. So which ties to the user experience improvement also. And if you're wondering, well, what about the Markdown version? It's the same application, right? So the UI work is also affecting the Markdown one. So we'll do that tour, and then we'll get to see some of that user experience, and then we'll use a practical example of setting up a project which may have dependencies on past, and then we'll leverage that use case to make some commentary around um, certain parts of the of Logseq DB. So uh, we'll do it this way. I'll copy this right here. So let's select. Actually, let's how do we do this? So we're going to export this page, and we'll go and create a new graph, and we'll use that as a playground. So, like I said, this is all live. It's gonna be fun. Let's go for it. So, export page. There is a new option called EDN format. So yes, text right here. This is Markdown. OPML was there before. HTML is there, but EDN format. This format maintains a schema. Of the data. So we're not going to spend too much time on there, but you can kind of see what content we have, which is just about the same that's in that page. So what do I want to do with this, right? So I'm going to create a new graph, and um, the creation of a graph, the database graph, we have that option here. And if you're wondering, well, can you still create a markdown graph? Yes, you can, and this is the option for it. If I were to click on that, it would prompt, and then I should be able to select a folder where I want my markdown graph. But in our case, we want to create a new DB graph. So we're going to call this, um, let's call it dev1 and submit. So this new graph has been created. And what I would like to do is I'm going to import the page that I copied from the other graph. So I'm just going to use my command palette, and there is a import EDN as an option here, which is it makes it convenient to carry over, let's say, a page with its node and its properties. So currently we have three options. We can select some nodes and then copy them in this format, and we can also do by page. There's also an option to do it by graph. But there is a tiny bug I personally ran into, and there's a bug report for it. So hopefully that will be fixed soon. So let's import this. And when we do that, we end up with that page imported. If you're wondering why are we seeing a linked reference here, that's because we have a date in one of those nodes with today's date. So let's go to that page. We end up with the same page. Everything is just about as we saw on the other side. All right, cool. So now let's use this new graph to do a quick walkthrough of what we have in Logseq DB from a UI and UX experience, user experience view. So um, the left sidebar, I think we touched on that briefly, right? So that is almost the same as before. We select our graphs. We have those options. We already covered adding an MD graph or a DB graph. There's an option to do import as well. So we can import, just like we can export the database in Markdown file or EDN file. Um, we have other options here. So this option, if you're using Logseq DB and you need to report a bug that um, that is specific to your graph and you don't want to share your data. So the devs have implemented a feature which is debug transit. And with this, all your personal data will be scrubbed and the database, the graph that you'll be sharing basically will allow troubleshooting without sharing your data, which is very convenient. But if you were to export a graph, for example, you export it as an sorry, as an SQLite, and you can import it via SQLite as well, which is what we see here. So while we're talking about export, let's take a quick look. So export is on the right side here on the settings section. So you export graph, and that SQLite option is here. So if you were to do that here, then you can go on a different machine and import that database, and then you end up with the same graph. So as far as export goes, I just talked about EDN, which is that option there, and then you can export the database and the assets in one go as well. So export as debug transit is the option that we see here, and this feature right here has been added recently, so like 2 weeks ago. So for current Logseq users familiar with Markdown version, there's been some questions around, well, what if I want my data in Markdown format because I want to have them in a format that I understand. So you can export the entire graph in Markdown format. So it doesn't currently support properties, but this is a start. So I think in the long run, we'll see an option to do the entire graph with maybe some ways of carrying over the properties being set on nodes or pages. So with that said, we're back to the import. There is nothing magical about that. So we go back to look at the options here. So I think that's about it for the left sidebar. So now, well, maybe not. Let's backtrack for a second. One thing that is new here, and this comes with the new user interface, the navigation. So we have journal, we have graph view. Graph view hasn't changed much yet, and when you click on it, it shows you the graph. But I don't believe they've spent a lot of time yet to polish this. For example, the search does not work yet, and the graph representation, the logic to represent the nodes and so on, I think probably needs a bit of review, in my opinion, but we'll see what comes out of that. So journal is obvious. It's the same. The keyboard shortcuts will kind of pop from when you're navigating. All pages will show pages that you've created. As you can see, this is what we added just a moment ago. And if you're wondering about the content, yeah, you'll see backlinks that exist on those pages. So depending on what you have, you may see your most popular pages from a backlink referencing perspective. And if you have pages that are being set um, um, that have tags, so you'll see them here. So I could be setting a tag to this page to define it as, let's say, an object, if that makes sense. So, and we have task. This is to aggregate all your tasks in one place. Assets will aggregate all your assets in one place. Assets would be PDF or images. Now, what's new here is that filter, so you can show or hide um, the main components of Logseq. So you have flashcard, graph view, pages, task, assets. So if you don't use flashcards because you don't have a need for it, students will probably use it, so they'll probably want to see it every time. So you have the option to show or hide what matters to you. So I'm going to hide that, and I'm going to hide assets because in this walkthrough, I'm not going to cover those, so I'm going to make the most out of my left side here. And favorite has not changed much. So let's assume for a second I were to go back and pick this page, and then I'll right click on it, add to favorite. It will show under favorite here. So this is the same experience as in Markdown version. Now, the recent section has not changed much either. It will list out pages that you recently accessed, as you can see here. So if it will show either pages, it will show tags. Yeah, pretty much they will show up. And as I was navigating, you will notice that the three dots. If you click on those three dots, it will give you the option to open on the sidebar. But if you're familiar with the keyboard shortcuts, you could be doing this using the shift key. So if you press the shift key and you click on pretty much anywhere on any node within the graph, this experience is somewhat consistent. It will open that content on the right sidebar. So that is what we have on the left side here, and um, the right sidebar has not changed a whole lot either. So content is still there. The UI experience is slightly has been improved a little bit. Any content you open on the right sidebar, you have the three dots again to give you the options to make some actions on those. So you can close, you can collapse, or you can open as page. This, I'm not sure if the naming does it justice, but when I click on this right here, it should open it up. Let me actually find one that's much more interesting. So let's open this here, and if I do open as page, it will open at the center. So for that reason, open as page, I don't know if the center section is really, if calling it page is the right way of doing it, but this is what it does today. Page graph, same as before, and the help is there in case you want to reference some of the help material. If you're wondering about Dev RTC, so the real-time communication feature, which is the collaboration feature that the devs have been working on, so which will supersede Logseq sync. So essentially, it has the sync component built into it. So we haven't seen that yet. So I believe the devs they've been working on it and testing it within the team. But for now, we have to hang tight and wait for that one to land. So there we are. So as far as settings go, let's take a quick look here. These are familiar. There is view page history. I don't think this has not been fully implemented yet. At least we haven't seen it. But the bits of some of those bits have surfaced. I think we'll probably start seeing this when real-time communication shows up. But again, uh, more to come on that. So slide is still there. We won't cover much. We won't cover that. Export page is similar to what I did, and I picked EDN a moment ago. And the publishing, no need to cover that until we get to the real-time collaboration and convert to tag. That we will cover that momentarily. Settings, appearance, and plugin. So let's cover plugin real quick because it's a little bit simpler. So plugins, a lot of those plugins that we have out there will probably need a bit of um, a brush up, some updates, some sprucing, let's say. So we should expect to see some of these plugins work as Logseq probably enters alpha for everybody. So the devs, a lot of plugin devs will probably start helping out. So, but for now, I know this one works. So the journal plugin, journals calendar plugin works, and the tabular plugin, sorry, tabular picker also works, and bullet threading kind of works. It's like it's broken. You'll see it when I'm using it, but I'll leave it at that for now. Themes, we don't have any themes that would really work because the UI framework change that I'm aware, but we should see new themes show up at some point. Now for themes though, with the new UI framework, there is a concept of accent colors that exist, and I'll zoom out a little bit. And when you change that, you can notice behind the color of some of these items change as I'm making those changes. So I'm probably going to keep it at, let's pick purple. Why not? So, and you can change. You have we have three fonts, so you can pick any of these fonts. Um, but so that's the default. Hopefully that gives new starters something to work with that's not too complicated to set up. At least we have three options here, and then we have a couple of colors, and anything beyond that will turn out to be new themes. So, and let's see, settings, let's cover that. So settings, this section, well, we kind of saw that. Custom configuration is still available, so we can make some custom changes. The theme, you can set a custom theme here, and the option to export a theme is also available. And the editor section, if I need to change date format, we can do that. And let's see what would be nice to have. How about we do, let's pick one that will be more interesting. Let's pick that. So once I do that, it takes me back. And if I click on journal, you can see that the format has changed. So that's another cool one. Before we used to make this change um, in the settings. So now we can do it straight in the UI, which is also good. So we got a couple of options here. No need to go into those details. I prefer to be in white mode every time. So a wide mode, so that's already done. And the keyboard shortcuts are available. Version here, no need to cover that for now. And in order to use plugin, remember you have to enable developer mode. And features. Um, you, if you want to disable journal, you have that option. Flashcard, same thing. HTTP server is also working. They fixed a bug not long ago, but this needs a little bit more work, I believe. But we'll see what comes out of that. So this is, in a nutshell, what the UI looks like from the app perspective in terms of what what the UI experience and um, the UI and the UI experience look like with respect to the data we insert into the graph, like the experience when manipulating graphs and the experience when setting tags and properties. I'll cover those as we progress. So let's start with setting these as a numbered list. So when I select multiple nodes, what do we see? We get the action bar. This action bar right here allows us to set tags. We can copy content, we can set properties or unset properties, or if you want to delete them, you can do it this way. And if you need more than that, you can click on triple dots and we can color these items if we choose, right? So these are options that we have. So what I would like to do here is I would like to set these as numbered list, right? So I can select that and then I can do numbered list. So now, what if I wanted to set these and say, well, these are our goals for uh, this this walkthrough. So I'll do. I'm gonna go the other way around, right? So I'll say tags. We could be actually let's go the other way around. So I'll do this. All right, let's go back. Let's use our action bar. Why not? So do that, and then I'll say these are goals. So as soon as this goal tag does not exist in my graph yet, but this is one of those user experience. I just express my intent to define these nodes as goals, and I got and the tag got created for me on the fly. If I wanted to go a little bit more, I mean deeper by describing some attributes of this goal, I can do that. Now, how do we do that? When you click on that goal, it shows me the table. In Logseq Graph, we'll hear a lot more about, yes, the tag table. Yes, this is it. So when you click on a tag, you end up with a table. Yes, you can format it. You have it in a table view, but you could still change it in list view, which is something that we are somewhat used to, right? So, but in table view, um, you have some flexibilities around how this works. So you can show and hide items. So I don't want to see updated at, created at, I can hide them. And because I already know these items, they're already tagged using the goal. And unless I'm expecting maybe to assign other additional tags to them, and so now I can say, well, maybe I don't want to see the tag column. I can hide that too. So then I only end up with these items here. But what if I wanted to say, well, did I fulfill these tags? I mean, sorry, these goals. So how do we do that? We can set a property to allow us to track this. What if I wanted to set a property that is just a checkbox? Keep it simple, right? So I'll say checkbox. I'll create that checkbox property and I'll set its type to be checkbox as well. Now, we could be setting the default value to be checked, but in this case, we're saying, well, we want it to be unchecked. Okay, so that's perfectly fine. Now, if I'm finished with it, I could be checking it or not. But that's simple as that. Now, what one thing I do in my graph with this specific property, I like it to be positioned at the beginning. So if I want this property to have its position at the beginning, I'll place beginning of a block right here. And you may be wondering why are we not seeing it in this view? And this view is kind of transposing the nodes and their properties to create a table. If I were to switch to list view, here's the magic. Now we have the checkbox that's positioned at the beginning of a block. So we just created the poor kind of what I would call the poor man checklist that you can easily use nearly anywhere. Now, let's take a quick look at this property. Go to property, checkbox right here, and I could be setting this on any node anywhere in the graph, but I'm going to do something else that's a bit more interesting. Now, what if we were to set this as, let's take a quick look here. Let me see if it will let me do it. Give me a second. No, it won't let me do it this way. Okay, so this is one of those moments when you realize you have one way of doing something, but then the other way does not work, just like just like we expect. So if I were to do, we'll figure this out. So let's say I create a new page that's called checkbox. Fine, let's do that. And then this one right here, I'm going to convert it and make it a tag. For some reason, it changed it for me here. Okay, so we have a tag that's called checkbox, and then that tag and I'm going to make it confusing. So we have a tag that's called checkbox, right? And then we have a property that's also called checkbox. And the purpose of this thing is just so that we can we have the flexibility to say I can select multiple nodes and then assign the property checkbox to them, or or I can go the tagging route and get to the same outcome. That's kind of why I'm doing this. And how do we t test and confirm what we just did is working? So let's do something here. So let's do demo one, demo two, demo three, and if I select this, I can set property checkbox, and you can see the checkbox. So we have that here, right? So let's I'm going to copy this and then paste that here, and I'm going to onset, right? I'm going to onset that. And then this time we are going to use the tagging option. So we're saying that is going to be, they're going to have a checkbox. And this time we're going to set the checkbox tag. Look at what we get. Same outcome. So the purpose of this, and you may be wondering, well, didn't we already use a property checkbox a moment ago, which was created, and then we went with the tagging option? Um, are we going to run into a situation where we have some duplicates? Um, yes, that's possible, because now, um, well, it used to be, but I think to prove a point right here, right? So we can see that, let's see, we have, yeah, we're still seeing this checkbox being set as property, but in one of my setup, I was able to get this checkbox to have both the property tag and also have the tag property, sorry, so the tag also set to it. So, but in any case, this is kind of to show how um, we can create tags easily and and also set create properties. All right, now uh, let's get in the weeds a little bit with the practical setup that we wanted to cover during this session. So let's pick, I'm going to paste some content here. I'm going to add them. A few things that we're going to do just so that we have a little bit of structure and end up with that project management piece. And my apologies in advance, but maybe this session will be close to an hour, if not a little more than that, but it is what it is. Let's keep going. So we'll configure a project management system that will have a dependency on tags, or tags will have a dependency, will have project as parent, for example. So we'll see some relationship between them, so you can get some kind of grouping based on properties. So when I say grouping, tasks that relate to the to relevant projects. And while doing so, maybe add some templates so that we can see um, we can have what kind of consistency we can provide between projects from a template perspective. And while doing that, so we cover templates a little bit, and how do we extract or surface data using queries is something that we're going to look at, and linked references or unlinked references. So those are the main two mechanism that allows a user to kind of surface the data um, and do more work with them. So, and the last bit will be around views. So these will not be in a particular order. So I'll be going back and forth and commenting just so the relevant points are addressed anytime we are looking at a specific piece. So with that said, let's get into it. But for this one, I think I'm going to select all of these, and because they're tasks, I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut, Command Enter, which allows me to convert all of these into tasks. And as you can see, they're all done, and the default task status has been set on these. So where are we going to start? We're going to start with these, right? So we're going to do this, and how about we say we're going to start doing the project. Now, I'm going to use my command key here, Command K, and then we're going to set project as a page, and this page, we're going to convert it to a tag. It's a tag now. So what we're going to do after that, I'll go back and we'll go to task, which is already given to us by Logseq. And this tag has a couple of properties. Let's take a quick look. So status property is already defined for us, and it has the following statuses, right? And priority is also there for us. We have 4 of them. And scheduled, what we are going to, this is like if you want to set a deadline, so that allows you to set a date. And same thing for schedule and deadline, they behave almost about the same. So we can set a date in a future, or we can do recurring as well. So with that, what we want to do is for our simple task management, anytime we create a new task, we want to have the option to say this task relates to a given project. How do we do that? So we add a property that we're going to call related project. And in order to create the relationship, because now in Logseq DB, we have a concept of node type. And we are saying we want this task to be related to another entity, another object, which is a project. So an object of type node. So we're saying we want a node, but what is the type of that node? It's a project. So which we had already created a moment ago. So that's available to us as a choice. So we select that. And once we do that, that's pretty much it. Now, what do you think will happen when we go back and check our tasks? And we see one of them here. And this is one of those user experience that we're just going to experience. In order to have some space, I'm going to collapse this sidebar and then click on, if I click on one of these tasks, what happens is we have the option to edit the task text here, right? But if I wanted to open on the right sidebar, that option is not available right here, right now. But this one will open the node in the center page. So we get to see the content at the center. And the property we added a moment ago to the task to say, what project does this relate to? And this is a task that belongs to this video I'm recording. So let's say Logseq demo. Logseq demo, DB demo. So that's a project, right? So um, if we were to, before I move forward, so I mentioned we could, once I click, and then I get enough, once I click, I can edit and I have an option to open the node in the center section. But if I wanted to, I'm gonna press escape to open this on the right sidebar. There is when you hover over any of these items, you have the option to open a right sidebar. So that's one of those new UI experience. So if you can feel free to comment on it, like it, not like it, however you feel about it. I think it'll be good feedback to provide. And for this task, since we have it open, we can set a priority. We can set a deadline. So this needs to be done today. That's a deadline. And assuming that I scheduled it to be done like yesterday, I could be setting that, but these are options. And you may be wondering, well, what is that 4M? So I switched to do from to do to doing status. So the time tracker has begun. So that's what's causing this marker here. So 4M. So if you keep if you pay attention to it over time, you'll notice that it will increment to a higher number as we progress. So, all right. So now that we added a related project, one thing that I'm going to show you, which will be, uh, I guess, interesting. Now that I switch back to the page, we see all our tasks, but and we also see all of those properties here. What if you had um, half a dozen properties assigned to a given task? They will all show up. Um, if those properties are not things that you want to see every day, but you only need to set at some point, and then they're part of what construct the workflow, you can hide them, right? So I can click here and then change the experience. So I can say hide by default. Once I select that, I can go back to a page and come back. You'll notice that they don't show anymore. Yes, they're important for the intended purpose of making sure we use them to say these tasks belong to a given project, but at the same time, we don't want to clutter the UI. So I think this is a nice UI and user experience, but um, let the team know how you feel about it. So um, one thing we can do here is now that we have that property, we're going to set that property here, related project, and we're saying what project do they belong to? This one. Now, if I were to go back and open the project table right here, we can see now we have a project, okay? And this project right here, if I were to open it, I'll do command click to open that project. And this project has some linked references, as you can see, um, because of the property that's been set, the related project property that's been set on those tasks, these for the following tasks. So now let's cover something interesting that is new here. Linked references have the concept of views. Just like we saw views on tags, so like the task tag, I'm going to collapse this. Just like we have table view here, and we can switch to different views. The same experience is also available um, with linked references and even unlinked references as well. Now, let's cover what that looks like. This option of filtering linked references is the same as what we used to in Logseq DB. So we can filter by tag let's say status, because we're dealing with task in this case. If you notice at the background, you may see a slight change. I guess in this case, well, we only have tasks, so maybe this is not a good example, but I think deadline may be more interesting because we only have, I believe, one task that has a deadline. So if I do that, I can see that we only end up with one item here. Now, here's what we're going to do. How about we want to say, for this project, I want to only I want to have a view that shows task with deadline. So task, let's say task due. How about that? Let's do task due. Oop, it's jumping on me here. So task due. Okay, it's misbehaving a little bit, but let's see. There you go. So this view right here only has tasks that have a deadline. But if we were to go back, I think we run into a little bit of an issue here because the filter is now applying to all of them. Okay, fine. Let's go the other way around. So I'm going to uncheck that. I think the view is applying to all of them. So let's go the other way around. So how about we go with the filter by tag, which is more in in line, in tune with the new experience. So let's do tags. And if I wanted to only pick tags, then I can do that here. So assuming I had um, another reference of this project, let's try that. So let's go back to, um, I'll go to journal and I'll do this right here. We'll do a linked reference and an unlinked reference. So we will do that. So let's say we have this, and then for the sake of conversation, I'll go here, and then I'll do uh, let's add a child item to this one and say Logseq demo in progress. All right. Now, if we go back to let's close this. And Logseq DB demo. Now we have a little bit more content, right? So if we go to task view, we won't notice. Let's look at the difference. So at the bottom here, we have a linked reference right here, because of and that's coming from the journal. But if I go to task view, we're saying we only want to show nodes that have a task tag. Therefore, we only see those here. If I wanted to do and to add another view, but for capturing only, let's say, other nodes, non-tasked nodes, for example, right? So I'll do that, and I can come and do a filter by task again, but in this time, I will not do, I want to do is not a task, and we end up with the linked reference only. So the flexibility is there, and if you don't like the list view, you can go to table view, and there is a third option, which is still a work in progress, but you can do a gallery view. Let's go to the task one because we have more nodes there. I can do gallery view, and then we end up with this view. I believe the devs already have planned to do a little bit more work on this, but for the time being, I think this is a good starter. Now, let's go back for a moment and look at unlinked references, because if you remember, I've added another node where I said Logseq DB demo in progress. Because of this right here, we end up with unlinked references. Now, if you're wondering, do we have the same view experience with unlinked references? The answer is yes. So you can do the same thing that we did above with unlinked references. And since we've done that, we're not going to create new views for this, but at least it helps you see what we are able to do. Okay, now going a little bit over many details as possible here, but let's maybe recap what we've been able to do so far. So I think this one we covered already. So the database tour, the UI and so on. So I think we covered that. And the overview of the user experience, that's part of it. So I'll say we covered that. The implementation of the tag. So we did add the project tag and the task tag. We kept it almost the same, except that we added a related project to it. Okay. So I'll say we're nearly done with that, right? Now, let's look at template. So for template, what we're going to do is we'll explore using an example. So, and what we're going to do, we will add a new project. Okay. So we say design workshop is a project, right? So I added it as a page, and then this page is what? The design workshop is a project, so I'm attributing the project tag to it. Okay, And for this one, we're going to say we have a couple of tasks. So I'll use my keyboard shortcut to go home. That's we go in the journal, okay? And these tasks, these are tasks. So I'm going to use again my Command Enter key to make them tasks. And what I would like to do to these right now is I would like to set the related project. So I'll do set property, related project, design workshop, and that's about it. Okay. So now that we've done that, if I were to do Command K and I want to go to the page, the project design workshop, remember, linked references will pick them up because these tasks are related to design project because of the related project property. So with that, um, we have a project and a task in less than what, a minute or maybe 2 minutes. Who's counting? Fine. Now, how about if let's say we wanted to have a certain structure to project, that's where properties come in. And for sorry, not property, templates come in. So there is a template tag that already exists that the Logseq team provides us. If we find it here, we we can use this and then apply a template based on tags. Now, for templates, we have a couple of options when it comes to how we want to organize our templates. You could create a page somewhere and then create different nodes and set those nodes to be your template structure. But because in Logseq DB, everything is a node, and some nodes may be a tag, and the journal is somewhat of a in the same boat. But anyway, so the template, this template tag right here, we can add our templates directly, which is how I just do it. So instead of going and creating another uh, place, another page where I'm aggregating, so I'll do new here. When I click on new, it opens up on the right side. And what I'm going to do, and this is just my best practice, I'll just say template, colon, and then I'll say, what is this template for? It's a template for project. So I'll do project. Okay. So, and I want this template to be used every time I use the tag project, the project tag. So I'll click on this right here, and then I have the option to select project. And what content do I want to apply to at any time I leverage the tag project? And for that, I'll add these. So my project will have an overview, right? And milestone and related project and related task, for example. So if we were to say, now let's create a new project again because creating projects are cheap, right? So let's do that. Let's say, well, we wanted to launch a rocket. So we create a page for it. And this page right here, we can do, we can set a project to it, right? And as soon as I type that, we can end up with that template. Now, let's make this a little bit more interesting. What if we wanted to go back to the template right here? I'm going to switch from table view and do list view. That way I can make some of these edits in line right here. Okay. So what I would like to do is I would like to add some queries to show a related task. This is where we start looking at um, the experimenting with the query experience, so which we have not covered until now, right? So we can still do advanced queries, but we also can do simple query, which now has been greatly improved because of the tags and properties. So we can go really far now without having to rely on advanced queries. So the slash command is something that existed before. It's still here, and a lot of the same things are still, same options are still available. So node reference has not changed much, except the syntax. Instead of using curly, the double parentheses, it's now square brackets that we use for those. But node embedded, same experience. So all of these are the same. Link, and image link, that kind of stuff. So all of these are code block has been greatly improved. They did, the devs have done a really good job enhancing code block. And code also has a nice UI to it now. Math is in the same boat. Heading, nothing magic there. We always seen the task statuses, scheduled and deadline. We covered those. Task priorities, and you can do a slash today slash tomorrow, and you get to dates of the, and you can do the date picker. So those have been greatly improved. Numbered, you've seen me use that, and query is what we want to use right here. So template, as we talked about, we'll use that a little more again, but all the other ones I think have been used before. So table icon is coming from plugin, just to show that plugin, the foundation of the plugin is still there. So, and clause, yeah. And if you want to add a new property, you have that option. But for what we want to do here, we pick query, and query. What we want here is we'll pre-filled some of the query in a template so that when the template renders, it will pre-fill some of that query information. Now, um, there are some gotchas to it, but we'll see it as we progress. So the query experience is now we have a cogwheel in front. So when you click on that, it gives you the detail. And what we want to do here is, I would say, well, we want to find task in active status. Um, and then that may be related to a given project. Now, the bad news is Logseq today does not have a way of doing self-referencing. Self-referencing in a sense that anywhere we get to use, let's say, a template where this query is provided, ideally it'd be nice if we could say, well, the the parent it's referencing should be used to say, oh, these tasks are must be related to that parent one. So we don't have that concept right now. So what I'll do is instead of having this populate all tasks in the graph, I'll kind of constrain it just a little bit for the sake of this exercise. So we could say, well, let's pick a tag, and then I'm going to say, well, what if it's a task that also has a project on it? So it won't show anything because it's intentional at this point. But yeah, now. Um, what do we want to do beyond this? So you may notice it says untitled query, right? So this is where we get to set the name of a query. So I'm just going to pick this name here because it could be redundant, right? So I'll say, let's pick the same name, and I'm going to set the same heading one. And because of that, because I can label my query nicely, I don't necessarily need um, to create to double up my headings. So that's that. But the query is here, and if I want to see my query setting, the option is here. So this should have been fixed by the devs, but I guess we'll see. But if I click on the gear, I can see my details. So I think the fix that will come, this gear will be moved at the top here. If I were to remove, just to prove that prove the point. If I remove this heading right here, you'll notice that the gear is at the right place. So, but anyway, um, but all right, now what do we want to do? Let's go back and we're going to create a new project. Let's do that. Actually, let's do Rocket 2. And then one thing I have not shown yet, when creating a page, we have the option to set the tag at the same time. Yeah, so there you go. And as soon as we do that, we say launch a rocket 2. It's a project, and we get the template that renders, and then we have a query that shows up right here. Now, where this gets interesting is I could come here. I'm just going to remove this and then say, well, I want this to reference. I want these to. I want these tasks to have some relationship with the project I'm working on, which is. Uh, oh, there you go. So launch rocket 2. Now we don't have any task for launching rocket 2, unfortunately. So what we're going to do is we will go to. Bear with me. Let's go here, and then we'll go home to the journal, and then I'll go to the bottom, add these two tasks. And what we want to do here is we want to say um, these are tasks. So I'm just going to use my command palette, and I'll say, how do we do this? I'm just going to pretend, let's do property. So we're going to add a property. Related project, and then you see my options there. We can select Rocket 2, and those properties are being set. Now you may be wondering, did we just set properties without setting them as task? Yes, we can do that. And if you want to see that we in fact did set the property value, it's right there. So that option is available, but we still want to make these tasks. Why not? So because remember, in a query, we are tracking based on past status. So now I did that. So yes, there were two actions. It felt redundant, but at the same time, one thing that Logseq does behind the scene, it will still honor that related project. So, which is kind of cool. So we don't have to redo our work. So now that we have two tasks and they're related to launch Rocket 2, and they're tasked by their tags. If we were to go back to, actually, let's do it this way. I will open this to the side here, and I will click on Launch Rocket 2, and I'll close that. And I can see that um, my related tasks are showing the two tasks that are relevant to this project. So this is one way you could surface your content. Now, with the task, sorry, with the views of linked references and unlinked references, there are ways. So we can even argue or debate a little bit around, okay, well, with this option where you can slice a lot of these information and surface them, do we really need to add a query, this query in the project page if we have the ability to scroll down to the linked references section and then have, just like we did before, right? We added an example of view for task. We could potentially be doing that. In that case, maybe this becomes redundant and irrelevant. There may be a case where you need to do a bit more of a complex query and so on. In that case, yes. Now, so this is template being used in a nutshell. And for fun, we'll add one more template because why not? So if we were to go back to, let's do Command K, template, and we go here. If you remember, I mentioned that I prefer to add my templates in here in the table and link them to have, when I say link them, they have a template tag, which is a page as well as parent. If I were to click on Command, and then click on template project, look at the bottom right here. It says template, and then under this template, we have template project. Okay, that's what I meant. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'll call this admonition. So right now, the list of admonitions that we have in Logseq Markdown version, they have that weird syntax that comes from org mode, and so far they have not been implemented in Logseq. So what I'll do is I would like to create one admonition. I'm just going to use, so let's do template. I'm going to do admonition, and then um, I'll do dash callout. Some people call them callouts. Um, I use both so people can make sense of it. And I'll give it a tag. So I'll call this let's see, uh, call out, and then the tip call out is what we want to do. So I'll change this. So admonition, not do. There you go. So what do we want to do with this? When we use this template, I want it to add this content. Bear with me a second. I think Logseq is the copy paste is catching me off guard here. Formatting. Okay. And then V. There you go. Actually, I think I got it. Okay, so let's do that. There. So what I would like to do is anytime I use this callout tip, it will render because Logseq, if you haven't noticed, the code base is the same, is nearly the same. The foundation is nearly the same between Markdown and the database. So this is still supported in the database version. So the syntax is a little weird. I'd argue this needs to be improved and natively supported. But now that we have this new template, if we were to go back to, let's say, we go home and we want to use a slash command, and this one we want to use template. So template is available through slash command. So once I click on that, I get my list of templates that I can use. I can do project, and it will render what we saw a moment ago. But if I do tip and callout, this will render that admonition. And then now I can say, well, and here we are. So templates can be useful, and however, I believe there is a little bit of a bug that that needs to be polished, mainly around journals. So uh, we're still investigating those, but this is what templates look like in a nutshell. And now let's go back to our list. So what did we cover? I believe we've done templates at this point. Great. And we've been able to set actually 3 projects. All right. And I'll say we're done with this. And we've explored templates. That's a go. The query part, I think we've explored that as well. Let's see, let's close that out. Linked references and unlinked references, we've covered those. So we are good to go. And instead of doing the clicking, I'm just going to switch to the keyboard and go through it. So we've explored linked references view, and we've even created a custom view for task and other, and tag view and query view. All right, let's make sure we covered that really well. I'm going to bring back my navigation bar here. So let's go to this guy. So actually, no, we did add a query here. So one thing I had not covered on the view part, on the views to a certain degree, we have the ability to do sorting. So if you click on the column names, you can sort. You can see the sorting happening. And at the same time, we can also hide items. I believe I've touched on this a little briefly, but one thing we can do, which we have not talked about, you can export EDN. So this table content, you can export that too. And you can group by. So the group by capability is here. So you could group by related projects. So assuming you were to create a big query, how about we do that? Let's do one. Why not? So let's add a new query here. So template, let's do not template query. And what we want to do is we want to find all tasks that are currently in done. Actually, let's do done and to do. We don't have many, but anyway, so we have that here. And we want to do a group by related project. So just like that, we end up with a nice grouping. So you can see that I have some tasks that do not have any project, and we have some tasks related to these projects. So this is one of those nice improvement, for example, that the new UI and user experience bring to the fold with the DB version. So that's group by, and let me expand this a little bit. So I often hide some of these items. So for example, if I'm dealing with task, I don't necessarily want to see um, the tag column. So I want less information, less irrelevant information to my need at a given time. There may be cases where that tag column is important. Let's say if you have a node that has more than one tag, but in this case, I don't care about this one, so I'll hide it, hide these two. And because I'm doing a grouping by related project, I don't need to see that in a column as a column anymore. So I'll only keep the thing that matter here. And to make things interesting, what if I want to look at, well, what do I need to do or what am I working on first, right? If I'm working on something, I better finish it. So I'll say, well, maybe this one is the one I'm working on. So, but remember, this is gonna get me because what? I switched it to doing, and then that one it disappeared a moment ago. This is another improvement that the dev team has added, the live update. So that landed like a couple of days ago. So you notice they're gone. Again, one more thing, you can click on and change the state of some of these properties. See, I can set priorities here. I can even click and set deadlines. So which is kind of neat, which reduces the back and forth, right? Now, in the table view, one thing that I have not covered is I can pin a column, which allows me to horizontally, if I have a lot of columns, I can pin and then I can scroll horizontally to see relevant content on the right or left, whatever that means to you. So that is that. And one thing we can do is filtering. This experience of filtering is the same that we saw with linked references. So if I were to say, well, what if I only wanted to see in this query tasks that have a priority urgent, and only the urgent task will show, which is only one in this case. That is, I would think, somewhat neat. Now, my hope is at some point, this experience is somewhat combined with the query. So, but right now it is what it is. We can do it this way. I can go the other way around. I can do is not, and then we get to see the opposite. So this is what the query, the table view looks like. I think we've now covered that in entirely. So let's go back. So we covered tag views, okay, and we covered query view. So with that said, let's put this to done. And the poor man um, checkbox is, I guess, the last one. We can check that off, and I think that completes this session at this point. So I hope this helps. I think it's long, but I believe we've covered from a high level perspective what is possible with Logseq DB, and a lot of these tasks have been done without the need to think about some complex setups and some scripting or even thinking about plugin. So there's room to go really far with Logseq DB without relying on on complex queries or relying on plugins, for example. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you see things that don't feel natural or need some improvement, feel free to share your feedback, and the feedback will be relayed to the team. And as far as doing something that can help everybody, This is just me sparing some time. I'm not an expert in doing videos, but I thought this could be useful. So if you like it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. Let me know, and uh, happy to learn and maybe make another one that may be slightly better. Can't promise that I'll do editing because, yeah, I'll leave that to the pros. Enjoy. Bye.